Want to welcome you guys back to another episode of The Jar. My name's Tony Orotone, a sports podcast that brings you facts and opinions, and you guys decide if you like it, hate it, or want to steal it. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. It's been a while. Sorry I was gone, but NFL season ended, and just like a bear, I went to hibernate. And just like a bear, I came out when it was my time. And the NBA playoffs is my time. It starts with the play-in, which is a great thing that the NBA added. Kudos to Adam Silver. Don't always give him kudos about a lot. This is one of those things that I really appreciate. A lot of us as fans really didn't like it. We even had, some of the NBA guys say, "Why are we doing this? This is stupid." And I would pretty much believe that the individuals that said it are now happy that they have that, because that's giving those teams that's in the 9th and 10th seed even a chance to make the playoffs. It's a little harmful for the guys who earn the 7th and 8th, but I mean, it brings excitement because there's no more filling out the teams for the first game, whether you win or lose. There's no other game to decide. There's no best 4 out of 7. There's us and them, and everybody gets out there and gets to it one game. NFL playoff style, NCAA tournament style. They lay it all out there on this game, and somebody has to prevail. And a lot of times the best team wins so far with this play-in tournament. So it's a beautiful thing. I also want to start off by giving kudos to those top seeds on the East and the West of the NBA, starting with the Western Conference, those OKC Thunder, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a rising star, up-and-coming star. He pretty much had those guys on his back, a young team. A lot of people didn't expect them to be here. I actually saw it coming last year. They were just missing that piece in Chet Holmgren, but they play great defense. They get after it. They're not selfish, and they have a superstar that's leading the way, at least an up-and-coming superstar. You have the old reliable, but not so old Denver Nuggets. Pretty much everybody expects them to come out because they're the champs. You pretty much have to beat the champ before someone decides that they won't win, unless there's just a major favorite that made a power change, and that's how it goes. But for now, we got the Denver Nuggets in the 2nd seed. 3rd seed, another exciting team on the up-and-coming rise. We have Anthony Edwards, a great star, up-and-coming, action, fun. He makes the game likable. He plays every game, both ends of the floor. You can't ask for more. A lot of people say he's the son of Michael Jordan. I wouldn't say that much, but he's a great player. Rudy Gobert, that everybody makes fun of, Defensive Player of the Year candidate, probably will win it because they have the number 1 defense and they get after it. So giving kudos to those teams, 1 through 3. Things have changed. Guys, teams that they didn't expect, OKC and Minnesota being at the top, and pretty much waiting for those last 2 teams to get in the playoffs so they can play them for the most part. Also want to give kudos to the Boston Celtics. No surprise there. They were already a great team, and they just added Drew Holiday, one of the best, if not the best, perimeter defender in the league. And then you add Kristaps Porzingis, a 7'2" monster, unicorn, whatever you want to call. When he's healthy, he's good. He's not their 2nd best player, but he's a hell of a 3rd best option if you want to have it. 7'2", block shots, shoot threes, can put the ball on the floor. I mean, they pretty much got him for a steal. So Boston Celtics are a well-oiled machine. They do have some things that they need to work out with taking bad shots that they don't even need, but I think Drew is a great addition that can kind of slow the pace and get them to the promised land. Major surprise, the New York Knicks. If you haven't been watching the Knicks and Jalen Brunson, you ain't been watching basketball. He's probably the best point guard in the league right now. Yeah, I said it. Now, you want to say Luka? I won't argue with you. But I don't see Kyrie Irving with Jalen Brunson. I see Dante DiVincenzo, a journeyman who was on the Bucks. He went to Golden State, and he came off the bench for both teams. I think he might have started for Milwaukee at times, but let's be honest here. No one expected him to be where he's at. And you have Josh Hart. He, for some reason, wants to be Dennis Rodman, where he wants to average almost 10 rebounds a game. Never did it before. So basically, New York is getting the best out of all of their players. They don't have Julius Randle. OJ Anunoby was a great addition, who was hurt. Mitchell Robinson, great defender, great rebounder, hurt. they relied on Hartenstein, Dante DiVincenzo, and Josh Hart to help Jalen Brunson. And Jalen Brunson did just like Shai Gilgeous. He put his team on his back. 29 points a game, 5 rebounds, 7 assists. I mean, he's having one of those MVP type seasons. It's unfortunate because he's one of those low-key guys that we're not talking about him more. But I want to know who's playing better than him right now. If you want to, again, say Luka Doncic or maybe Jokic, I won't fight you on it. But if you're being honest to yourself and you look at the talent that those guys have versus what he has, even a little bit of Shai Gilgeous, because I believe Jalen Williams is better than Dante DiVincenzo, then you want to argue with me that Jalen Brunson should be at the number 2 seed after losing one of your best, no, your second best player, and for some, the best player in Julius Randle for the season and being the number 2 seed in the East? You can't argue that he should be in the running for the MVP. He may not get it, but he should be considered for it. So that's a very, very big surprise in the Eastern Conference. And they're going to be waiting as well on those playing games to get started and finished so they can decide who they're going to play. And they're going to give someone hell. Not saying they're going to win because, again, the playoffs, they can game plan for my boy Jalen, and who knows what'll happen from that point. But still, respect to him, respect to the New York Knicks, and Tom Thibodeau is a great coach. It's not said enough. It's not appreciated enough because they say he runs his players into the ground. But I have yet to see an issue with the way he's coaching his guys because they seem to win. And he gets the best out of his players. So I love it. Back to the plans. What do you guys think about the Lakers and the Pelicans? I don't really like it. I hate that the Pelicans are playing the Lakers because I think it's just a horrible matchup. They haven't shown that they can do anything with the Lakers. LeBron defends. He hasn't been the best defender this year. He's a little older in tooth, or longer in the tooth, as they say. And he doesn't really defend. But there's one guy he doesn't have a problem defending, and that's Zion Williamson. Why? Because they build a wall. They pretty much let LeBron defend him and push him into the bigs or the wings, and he pretty much has nowhere to go. They know he likes going hard, strong to his left. He doesn't go right too often. If he do, he finishes with his left. You know, it's just a lot of things LeBron sees because he's one of the smartest players we've probably seen. It's a lot of things he see with Zion that he kind of can defend. You know, he doesn't have to run around, chase him. You know, his dribbling skills aren't the best. He pretty much just has to stop him from his launch spot. And when he stops him at that point, he kind of looks a little deer in headlights. And I think that's been his struggle with the Lakers. I mean, he averages about 25 maybe, but some games, if you've seen him, he looks like he's, you know, scared, a little disinterested. And I hate to use the word scared, but he just looks like he doesn't have an idea of how to attack that team because LeBron confuses him because he doesn't allow him to go strong left because LeBron is as strong or maybe as strong or stronger than Zion. Either way, you're dealing with a guy who's been in the league for 20-some years, very smart, savvy, and he knows how to defend certain players, and I think he has Zion's number, regardless of the fact. Then you have Anthony Davis. It's a whole nother animal. You have 26 and 13 coming at you, averaging 2 blocks. You can't defend him. You try to put Valanciunas on him. Valanciunas is too slow. They tend to take Valanciunas out of the games. Why is that? I never understood that. I think they try to space it out for Zion and put shooters around him, but it doesn't work against the Lakers because they don't have anyone to defend AD when they do that. The guy that they did have, who was an option, is on the Lakers, and that's Jackson Hayes. So you not only have the team that could defend Zion, you have a guy that played with Zion as well who can give intel. So I just think it's a bad matchup. I mean, they even played Sunday, and it was a blowout. It was up almost 30 at one point in time, and it really was no looking back. I mean, LeBron looked like LeBron, Irvin, Magic Johnson, you know, between his assists and points. It just looked relatively easy for the Lakers against them, unfortunately. You know, so in the play-in, I don't expect anything to change. They may be a better game. Brandon Ingram's coming back off an injury. That doesn't help, but it may turn out to be a better game. I just don't see a difference because I don't see anything they can do to change unless Zion could learn to attack the Lakers in a different pick his angles, find different angles to score because he's too beneficial and too impactful for their team, where if he's not involved and if he doesn't do what Zion does, they don't win. And I don't see him doing it, so I don't see him winning. The next game on the slate, which these are the Tuesday games, by the way, you have the Lakers versus, I'm sorry, not the Lakers, you have the Golden State Warriors versus the Sacramento Kings. Another game. It can be exciting, it can be a lot of points, but I think it's a bad matchup for the Sacramento Kings. I mean, look at them. They fell back from last year. They were the number 2 or number 1, if I'm not mistaken, seed last year, and now they're in a play-in. Why? Because it seems like everybody's caught up with them. Mike Brown, he's been an exceptional coach, but for as much as he is supposed to be a defensive coach, it seemed like he's just been stuck on offense. It almost seems like he tried to mimic Golden State by having shooters, an explosive point guard, and a big who can pass, assist, but he doesn't defend. They don't defend. And I think that offensive, once everybody caught up to them, it was kind of like a matter of time before they fell. And that's what it is. They fell from the top in the West of last year all the way down to the play-in, and then they end up having a matchup against a team that they lost to in 7 games in Golden State. The only difference is they're going in the game with some injuries. Malik Monk is out. He won't be back unless they make a long run in the playoffs. Kevin Huerter, their star shooting two guard, is out. So they're going to be without 2 of their most dependent guys on the floor. A guy who can shoot, stretch the floor, and a guy who can score at will. Probably the 6th man of the year, and he's not even going to be there. Meanwhile, you have the Golden State Warriors. Steph Curry, they got to rest Sunday. They didn't play because they're like, we're going to decide to rest our guys and get them ready for whoever we play. And I think they kind of wanted to play Sacramento because I think they know they have a better chance of beating Sacramento of all the playing teams because of the matchups. Steph is going to do what he do. They don't have anyone to defend Steph Curry. They don't. They didn't last year. They don't this year. And it's only worse because now they don't even have another body, which will be Malik Monk at times and Kevin Huerter at times that they could throw at them, regardless of how good they play defense. You don't have those 2 anymore. Clay he's not been the best, but he's been revving up a little bit. He's played better. But they don't have anybody for Clay, regardless of how good he isn't or hasn't been. They still don't have anybody for Clay because he can get hot at any time. I didn't even mention Jonathan Kuminga, who came into his own this year. He wasn't even as good last year. Trey Jackson, the Indiana center, rookie, phenomenal. He's starting for them now. He took Kevin Looney's place. As much as we like Looney, Looney's a guy. Golden State's system made him look better than he was. Now they have a guy who can play center. Even though sometimes you see him undersized, he rebounds, he defends, he blocks shots, and more importantly, he's open for those lobs that the Warriors were missing when they didn't have a center in the past. That's what make Draymond a little better than he was last year because he's able to get more assists. He's able to get someone to have his back on the defensive end. Even though they're not the biggest team, Trey Jackson makes them better than they were. Pozinski, the rookie guard who can shoot, he can play, he's a lefty, he's smart with the ball, he's learning from Steph, he's learning from Chris Paul. Chris Paul on the bench. They have a lot of guys. Andrew Wiggins looks like he's playing a little better. They have a lot of guys who can play good together, even though they kind of suck in a sense because they're the 10th seed, for Christ's sake. But I still think that they're, as a team, better than Sacramento Kings, especially with the injuries. Sacramento could get revenge. That means that De'Aaron Fox has to put on one of those games. I mean, nonstop, 40, 50, maybe not. Sabonis, he has to put on a show. He has problems with Draymond because Draymond frustrates him. He gets him in foul trouble. He's not able to put his impact on the game when he plays against Draymond for some odd reason because the refs let things go when he plays against Draymond Green. So it's a struggle for him. And I didn't even mention guys like Moody, who can shoot and play defense. Again, Andrew Wiggins playing the way he's playing. They're going to be tough to beat without their guys. And I don't see them winning. I see the Golden State Warriors beating them on Tuesday and going on to play against the 7th and 8th seeded teams for the playoff, for the play-in for the next game. So good luck to both teams. Golden State, Sacramento, good luck to the Lakers and the New Orleans Pelicans. But I just see it being the same old. LeBron, Steph, trying to get in the playoffs, and these two teams, it's just a bad matchup at the wrong time. Ironically, you will want to see Sacramento against the Lakers because the Lakers have a hard time with Sacramento, and you will want to see the New Orleans Pelicans against the Warriors because the Warriors can't match up with Zion, but it's flipped around in their favor. So I think that's how it iron out for the West. I think eventually we'll probably see, because I think when the Lakers beat the New Orleans Saints will probably, I keep saying the Saints. I'm ready for football. Sorry. When the Lakers beat the New Orleans Pelicans, they'll probably match up against the Warriors. That could go either way, but either way, the Lakers will be victorious and the Golden State Warriors will be victorious Tuesday. The next games on Wednesday will be the Eastern Conference playing games, and they will consist of the Atlanta Hawks versus the Chicago Bulls. For some reason, the bettors or the odds makers got the Bulls winning. I don't know, it's maybe because they play good defense. Maybe they trust DeMar DeRozan in the clutch more than anybody in Atlanta. But Atlanta has been playing extremely well if you've been watching. Even when Trae Young was out, DeJounte Murray was leading those guys. Everybody was getting healthy. He was playing guys to the end. He was beating some teams they weren't supposed to. They earned their way back into playing because they were looking bad. And now Trae Young's back, so they pretty much have their full team, with the exception of Sadiq Bey, but everybody else healthy. They got a lot of offense at a lot of positions, and I think they're just much more talented than the Bulls. The Bulls have a lot of good players. Kobe White is playing phenomenal, probably most improved player this year. Deservedly so. He plays hard on the defensive end because he's playing better on the offensive end. You have Alex Caruso. Great defender, one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. You have Javon Carter, great defender, one of the better defenders in the league. Whenever Billy Donovan gets him out there, that's a whole nother story. But they play great defense. They take pretty good shots. I just think their talent is going to be less than Atlanta, and I think eventually you'll see Atlanta's talent overcome the defense of the Chicago Bulls. So I see Atlanta winning that game, even though the odds makers have the Bulls. Rightfully so, it could go their way, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Bulls win. But I truthfully believe Atlanta's going to sneak in the playoffs, and they may scare some team if they get in the playoffs fully. The next game is going to be Philadelphia 76ers versus the Miami Heat. Don't like the matchup. Miami hasn't been the best. I think they're the worst scoring team in the NBA. I think they're the worst. Tyler Hero is always out. He's hurt every year. He's back now, but it's like he's hurt every year. Jimmy hasn't been Jimmy, but he says it's my time. But you can't say that every year. You're getting older. Teams are getting used to you guys, and they have proven that they can win, so teams aren't going to take you lightly. They got to the finals in the bubble, and they got to the finals last year. So no one's going to go in here saying, they're just the Heat. They're going to go in there saying, we know what they're capable of because they did it twice. So I think a lot of people are penciling this game that's going to play you guys in the play-in serious because they know what Jimmy's capable of and they know what Eric Spoelstra, the coach, is capable of as far as X's and O's. He makes it happen. One of the best coaches in the league. And he doesn't need a lot of rings to prove it. It's been proven with his track record that he can make the best out of the worst. So everybody's going to be preparing for them. Unfortunately for them, they're going to be playing the Philadelphia. Now, in most cases, individuals may say, hey, this is a revenge game for Jimmy Butler because obviously he holds that grudge against the Philadelphia 76ers because they let him go and kept Tobias Harris, and it's still surfacing. I think something that happened almost 5 years ago, in a sense. He never forgave him. Most individuals still feel like, why would you decide to keep Tobias Harris and let go of a clutch player like Jimmy Butler? I don't know, maybe at the time he wasn't proven, which he pretty much won wherever he went to, or not so much won a championship, but he made his team better. It was proven in Chicago once he came into his own. It was proven in Minnesota when they was like the top 3 or 4 seed. When he got hurt, they dropped down to like between the 6 and 8 back then when they played James Harden and the Houston Rockets in the first round. And then you go here to Miami where he's been to the finals twice with some pretty underachieving players, no superstars, some pretty good stars. So it's kind of weird how they decided to keep the bias. That's here nor there. The fact of the matter is they're here. They're proven. Embiid is back. Tyrese Maxey is something that you are going to have to deal with. And again, Tobias Harris, for as much as we may seem or like think that he shouldn't have been kept and he should have been traded, he's playing pretty good as the third option. I think not having James Harden makes them more kind of in line of what their position should be. Embiid being the best player, Tyrese Maxey coming to his own, not trying to figure himself out within the season because he had James Harden, so it was like either should I turn it on or not turn it on, and then you had Tobias Harris, which At times, he looked like a second best player on his team, and then for the most part, he's really just a third option. But he wasn't fitting in as a fourth option because he was trying to figure out himself, along with Tyrese Maxey, with James Harden being the second player or second best player on the Philadelphia 76ers. So I just truthfully believe that it's going to be a little tough for Miami to win, because at the end of the day, how are you going to even have a chance of going against Embiid with Bam? Undersized center who plays good at times, but just the pressure of having to face Embiid in a play-all game. It isn't like he can kind of take his time and relax, and reserve himself for 6 or 7 games or even 4 games. He has to put it all out there. So he has to kind of make sure he isn't in foul trouble, but at the same time, he has to be available on offense as well, because Embiid is a great defensive player as well. So it's going to be tough for Miami. Again, in my opinion, they don't really have a chance of winning. But Eric Spoelstra he's the X factor. He's one of the best coaches in the league, and he'll dial up some things to at least keep them within the game, if not win the game. Now, Nick Nurse has won a championship as well, and he got it as soon as he got Kawhi Leonard. As soon as he took over that Toronto Raptors team, the same year he won the championship. Kawhi Leonard is Kawhi Leonard. So let's say that he pretty much beat that Philadelphia team that Nick Nurse is actually coaching, ironically. So that doesn't mean they don't have a chance. But at the end of the day, I just think it's going to come down to Joel Embiid being the best player on the floor, and Tyrese Maxey being either the second or the third best player on the floor, depending on who shows up for the Miami Heat. Because it could be a Terry Rozier game as well. Don't want to forget about him. He's a great acquisition, but I don't know if he's going to be that much of a presence on the floor. He may score his points, but Embiid's presence is just so overwhelming as a player. That's what makes him one of the top 2 or 3 players, however you want to say it, regardless of his injuries. He's who he is. So those are pretty much my picks this week for the play-in, the first play-in games. You have the Lakers versus the Pelicans. I think the Lakers are just going to be too much for the Pelicans. They've shown it all season. Zion looks confused and lost against them because they build a wall kind of similar to Giannis, and he really doesn't like going to his right hand. Everything is left, and they know it. LeBron knows it. I think the Lakers win that game. It may be convincingly too. Hope not. And then, of course, you have the Golden State Warriors, who play the Sacramento Kings. They pretty much own the Kings. Mike Brown sometimes looks like he's trying to build the same team that he was coaching as an assistant over in Golden State, with a bunch of shooters and a great point guard and a big man who can kind of do everything on the floor with the exception of defense, which is Sabonis. But sometimes you can't try to mirror what someone does, because if you do, they'll know exactly what you're trying to do. We just do it better. Even though Golden State don't look like they are who they used to be, I still would choose them over the Sacramento Kings, especially without Malik Monk. And then you have the Atlanta Hawks versus Chicago Bulls. I would want to have faith in the Bulls. I think a lot of people don't really have faith. I just believe they've been playing okay. I mean, they're in the play-in, right? So they're doing something, even though you've had hiccups and miscues and weird lobs to the same person or the person behind them or both of them. That's the Bulls in a nutshell. That's who they are. That's Chicago Bulls. I mean, that might have been the worst play we've seen in decades, but that's a whole nother story. Atlanta's going to be the winner of that game, I think. If the Bulls win, great. I mean, that's good for the city. They can, feed off that if they make the playoffs or don't and build off that. But I think Atlanta's just going to be too much firepower, better talent. We'll see. And then finally, we have Philly versus Miami, and I'm going with Philly. I just think Embiid's presence is just too much to have on the floor at the time, and I think he's going to put too much pressure, along with Tyrese Maxey, on the Miami Heat, and I don't think the Miami Heat has the scoring to deal with Philadelphia. So that's my picks for the play-in, the first 4 games. I want to thank you guys again for coming back to the Jar. Again, it's been a while, but I'm back with the same information, factual, opinionated information, and I'll be back for the playoffs because it's only heating up from here. Until then, see you soon.